There's a dangerous trap most leaders fall into, and it's one that feels like success, praise, recognition, the applause, the "you're amazing" comments, the viral quotes, the endless need for validation. And if you're not careful, you'll start building your leadership around what gets claps, instead of what actually builds trust. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most powerful leaders, saw through this illusion 2,000 years ago. While ruling the Roman Empire, he wrote to himself, "Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do." He knew something most modern leaders still haven't figured out. You don't lead for praise. You lead from principles, because the moment you need their approval to feel strong, you're no longer in control. You become reactive, chasing trends, bending your values, leading from insecurity. True leadership doesn't happen on stage. It happens in silence, when no one's watching, in the tough decisions. The quiet integrity, the calm under pressure. In this video, I'll show you 3 Stoic principles that separate performers from true leaders. If you want to lead with real power and stop living for external approval, this is how you do it. Part 1. Build inner approval or stay dependent on their applause. You'll never be free if you need their applause. It might start small, a compliment here, a thank you there. You work hard, someone notices, and it feels good, natural, encouraging, and there's nothing wrong with appreciation unless you begin to depend on it. That's where most leaders fall. Quietly, without even realizing it. They start chasing the high of being liked, reposted, praised. They shape their decisions around what will get approval instead of what's right. And slowly, their leadership becomes performance. But here's the hard truth. If your sense of worth rises and falls based on what others think of you, then you're not leading, you're following. Marcus Aurelius warned about this centuries ago. As the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, he still reminded himself, it's a small soul that surrenders itself to fate, but an even smaller one that surrenders to applause. He understood something modern leadership books rarely mention. You can't build something timeless if your compass is crowd approval, because the crowd is always changing. One day you're a hero, the next you're hated. The algorithm turns, the headlines shift, your team questions your decisions, and if you're not rooted in something deeper, you collapse with them. Real leadership means leading even when no one claps, even when they question you, criticize you, even when it's lonely, and that takes inner approval. A quiet conviction that says, I know who I am. I know why I'm doing this. That's enough. That's where Stoic leadership begins. Not in charisma, not in likes, not in being the loudest person in the room, but in having a stable, unshakable internal compass, one that isn't wired to external noise. Think about this. If someone compliments you and it makes your day, then logically, when someone insults you, it should ruin your day. That's the trade-off. You're giving strangers, co-workers, clients, anyone, a remote control to your emotions. You're letting them dictate your worth. And no real leader can operate like that for long. Not if they want to build something real. Because sooner or later, you'll have to make unpopular decisions. You'll have to say no to comfort, to trends, to shortcuts. And that won't always get applause. So what keeps you grounded then? Principle, clarity, integrity, the stuff that doesn't show up in headlines, but shows up when the pressure's on. This is why the Stoics trained daily to detach from public opinion, not because they didn't care about people, but because they knew that pleasing people and serving truth are rarely the same path. So here's your test. When you don't get recognition, when your work goes unnoticed, when they criticize you for doing what's right, can you keep going? Can you stay rooted in your values when no one's clapping? That's real leadership. That's what separates those who lead from the soul and those who lead for the spotlight. You weren't built to be liked by everyone. You were built to stand for something, and the stronger your inner approval becomes, the less you'll crave their validation, and the more power you'll hold in silence. Because the world doesn't need more applause, addicts. It needs grounded leaders, unshakable minds, people who don't need the noise to keep moving forward. You become dangerous the day you stop needing to be seen. You become powerful the moment you know, I don't need to prove anything. I just need to stay aligned. That's where everything changes. Part 2. Calm minds. Create strong cultures. Leadership isn't just about strategy. It's about energy. And whether you realize it or not, your team, your clients, your family, they don't just hear your words. They feel your state. Your stress leaks. Your fear spreads. Your anxiety becomes contagious. So if you're chaotic inside, don't be surprised when everything around you starts breaking down. Now flip that. When a leader walks into the room, calm, collected, steady, everyone else recalibrates. The team slows down. Breathing steadies. Focus sharpens. That's leadership. The Stoics understood this long before modern leadership books caught on. They trained their minds to be still in storms because they knew the moment they lost control of their inner world, they'd lose control of everything else. Marcus Aurelius wasn't writing philosophy in luxury. He was writing while leading an empire at war. Plagues, betrayals, political enemies. And yet he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He didn't say you'll find strength by fixing everyone else. He said, start here, inside. So what does that look like in real leadership? It means the first person you manage each day is yourself. Before you send the email, before the meeting, before making a decision, you check your pulse. You slow your breath. You ask, am I leading from clarity or emotion, from presence or panic? Because if your emotional thermostat is set to reactive, then your whole team operates in defense mode. They'll mirror your energy. If you're on edge, so are they. If you jump from one fire to the next, they'll run in circles. But if you're calm, measured, intentional, they'll adapt to that to dot. This is where many so-called strong leaders fail. They think being loud, decisive, intense makes them powerful. But real strength is found in restraint, in knowing when not to speak, when not to micromanage, when not to let a bad morning dictate the whole day. Your calm is not just a leadership tool, it's your competitive edge. Because in a world obsessed with noise, calm people become magnetic. They get more respect, more loyalty, more results, not because they demand it, but because they embody it. You don't build strong cultures with slogans and perks. You build them with emotional consistency. That's why Stoicism matters. It trains you to be solid in situations that would shatter others, to respond instead of react, to lead from principle, not impulse. So if you're managing people, or even just building a business by yourself, protect your calm like it's sacred, because it is. Here's the test. When tension rises, do you rise with it, or do you anchor down? When things go wrong, do you explode or exhale? Do you throw more chaos on top of the fire, or do you become the one steady thing in the room? Because that one steady thing, that's what people remember. That's what earns trust. That's what builds legacy. Calm is not weakness. It's what makes you unshakable. The Stoics didn't walk around with emotionless faces. They carried themselves with discipline. They trained calm like a skill, like a muscle, and so can you. So the next time pressure builds, pause, feel the fire inside you, and breathe through it. Don't let it own you. Don't spill it onto your team. Transform it into stillness, into focus, into presence. Because in the end, the most powerful leaders aren't the loudest. They're the ones whose calm shifts the room. Part 3. Lead with principles, not performance. It's easy to look like a leader. You wear the right suit. You speak with confidence. You hit targets, get applause, post wins online. You know what to say and when to say it. But real leadership doesn't show up in the highlight reel. It shows up in the dark, when things aren't working, when no one's clapping, when you're forced to make the hard call that no one will celebrate. That's when the question hits. Are you leading to be admired? Or are you leading from your values? Because if your leadership is just performance, just optics, you're playing a short game. You'll chase trends. You'll compromise on the hard things. You'll bend every time pressure shows up, just to stay liked. But if you're led by principle, by inner clarity, then you'll do what's right even when it's unpopular. And in the long run, that's what makes people trust you. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations for fame. He didn't know we'd ever read it. He wrote it to remind himself not to be corrupted by power, not to let his emotions govern his decisions, and not to drift away from his duty just because it was difficult. He wrote it to remember who he was, not who people wanted him to be. In business, that's your compass. You'll get tested. You'll be offered shortcuts. You'll be asked to water things down for better optics. And sometimes, doing the right thing won't get recognition. It might even cost you. But if you abandon principle every time the path gets hard, you're not a leader, you're just a people pleaser with a title. The Stoic way is different. It says, know your values, define them, anchor yourself in them, because when everything else changes, your principles won't. You don't lead based on applause. You lead based on what you're willing to stand for when no one's watching. So ask yourself, do I know what I believe in? Do I have non-negotiables I won't compromise, even if it costs me followers, money, attention? Am I willing to disappoint others in order to stay aligned with myself? Because that's the edge, that's the real power. And over time, that kind of leadership builds trust you can't fake. People might not agree with everything you do, but they'll respect your clarity. They'll trust that your word isn't just branding, it's truth. And long after the flashy leaders fade out, you'll still be standing, not because you were the loudest, but because you were the most rooted. So, if you want to last, if you want to build something that actually matters, lead with principle. Lead from the inside out. Not for applause, not for performance, but because you've chosen a standard you refuse to betray. And the moment you live by that, you stop needing to prove yourself. You just show up, fully, consistently, quietly powerful. That's what Stoic leadership looks like, and it's rare, which is exactly why it works.